Good afternoon and welcome to the Butterfly Experience LLC. I had posted something regarding the leaky faucet earlier today. It was a post that brought silence, so I know that it has some validity with a lot of people, because whenever we stand to self-evaluate, or we stand to have to look inwardly, it's a struggle. But part of life coaching and building is to identify those things and move forward. But you have to identify them. So the whole purpose of the leaky faucet concept, I was thinking about all of the toxic topics that I would like to go over. And I thought about the leaky faucet, because when you think about a leaky faucet, it could be a really annoying situation. And the thing about the leaky faucet is that sometimes the leak is slow. So you may believe that, you've purchased this new faucet, or if you've gotten to know. So we're using the faucet as an analogy for people who don't know how to keep their mouths closed. People who spend all day just running their mouths like a faucet about people and their circumstances. And specifically when people have confided in you or shared with you. People may say, well, don't tell your business. Well, you don't tell your business to just anybody. You tell your business to people who you feel you can confide in. And if there was no such thing as confidentiality, then there'd be no real friendships, right? There'd be no real bonds. So there should be some integrity involved in the process of gaining people's information and having the ability to keep it to yourself. Specifically, if they have not given you permission to share it with anyone. So you don't own it. You've been given the privilege of knowing it, or the privilege of, sharing in that process. So it's very important that we practice discernment about these faucets. And you usually know that faucets are leaky, right? But there are instances where you might buy a faucet, it looks good. So you may enter a relationship with a leaky faucet, and other people think the faucet is reliable because the faucet hasn't been a problem for them. And the faucet may have a slow leak. So it's not dripping every time that everybody sees it, okay? And by the time you realize it's dripping, it's really leaking and it's a problem after you have shared pertinent information. Now, there's one thing we have to understand also. When I talked about the water flow, there are different types of water. Okay, you have your tap water, you have your spring water, you have your well water. So there's different values of water, meaning that there's different values of information. Okay, so if a leaky faucet, has water that might be tap water, is spilling out, nobody might not care about it, doesn't have as much value. That information is not as valuable. But if somebody has well water flowing through, or somebody's information is a spring water, now we're talking about information spreading and information getting out that is of great value. Okay? So people want that information because it's valuable. So at times, a leaky faucet that's a known leaky faucet may not be leaking tap water information, because everybody either knows about it or nobody cares. What they want to leak is the well water. What they want to leak is the spring water. The problem with a leaky faucet, it has to be dealt with. If you think about it, it can cause all kinds of problems. It can cause erosion. It can cause mold to happen, which is toxic, okay, and destroy people's health and situations, which is what happens to people when gossip gets spread. It's a very emotionally and sometimes financial issue, and it can lead to somebody acting out, because not everybody's going to tolerate somebody gossiping about them. So there could be so many repercussions behind it. And usually people who gossip, really, if you look at their lives, they really probably shouldn't say anything at all, because they usually live in glass, not only houses, but glass mansions, okay, literally. But when you're not a quidnunc, or you're not a gossiper, you don't really invest in trying to look for the flaws in others so that you can cause harm. So you're not really interested in the leaky faucet's information, because it's just not a part of your value system or what you're concerned about. So, like I said before, people with the well water and people with the spring water and the good water, they have to be careful. All right. So as I was stating, there's corrosion and toxicity that comes from this happening. It's a very toxic situation when you deal with leaky faucets. Another piece to them is that you could do a couple of things when you're dealing with a leaky faucet. You can just replace the faucet altogether and get you a new faucet, okay? Or you can try to repair that faucet by cutting them off. meaning that you get that wrench and cut off the water supply, so you no longer give them any information that's valuable. If you don't give the leaky faucet any water, they have nothing to flow through, so it won't leak. Okay? Or you can cut off the water supply altogether, okay, and nothing flows through. So now curiosity will just keep killing the cat, okay, so to speak. Or you can decide that, you want to try to work with that faucet and keep trying to repair it over and over again and find yourself in a cyclical, damaging situation. So there's so many things you can do with it, but at the end of the day, the leaky faucet has to be addressed because the leaky faucet is very problematic. So if you have valuable information that you are sharing with people that can't seem to keep their mouth shut, because at the end of the day, like I said in my post, water flows, and sometimes the water may not always tell where the source is coming from, or may not always know where the source is coming from, but it always somehow flows back to them. Because remember, we're talking about valuable information. And not only does good news travel fast, but so does bad. So at the end of the day, that leaky faucet's leak ends up spilling out and somebody finds out about it. So I think it's important for us to really think about how we interact with one another and, have some accountability, because we live in a time where things are really bad. People are harming one another. All crazy things are happening, and nothing is worse than the breaking of a bond or the breaking of trust or the breaking of confidentiality. So with that being said, let's repair those leaky faucets, and y'all have a wonderful day.